In that world, when someone turned 18 years old, they received one skill. This skill was closely tied to a person's value. The protagonist, Alf, finally reached that age and got his skill. His father stood behind him, cheering. He wanted Alf to show the power of the skill passed down in the Lyfort family, a famous house known for sword emperors. However, Alf's skill was strange. His window skill showed the words cheat ability along with an infinity symbol. Even so, he had no usable skills at all. This shocked him. 2 years later, in the royal capital Valmond, a maid called out to Alf with worry. She told him that the head of the family wanted to see him. Alf, who had been busy doing chores, asked if it was really his father. The maid offered to finish the chores for him. Alf thanked her but said the boxes were heavy and suggested they carry them together. At that moment he heard some men complaining about the typhoon that had just passed. They said they could not lift a fallen tree by themselves. Alf stepped in to help. He lifted the tree onto his shoulder with ease. The men thanked him and he waved goodbye as he left. People around him talked about how kind he was. They said he trained every day and could carry heavy things without trouble. Still, they saw one flaw in him. They said it was a shame that Alf had received a useless skill years ago. Later, Alf spoke with his father and learned that he was being disowned. He asked nervously if his father was sure. His father said Alf should already understand the reason, even if he acted like he did not. Alf's chubby brother laughed and said it was because of his worthless skill. Alf could not respond. He remembered what had happened 2 years earlier. He still could not believe that he had received a useless skill even though it sounded powerful. His father had been furious. He could not accept that someone from the Holy Sword Emperor family had such a skill. He coldly said that he was disappointed in Alf. Even though Alf felt upset and frustrated, he stayed silent. Back in the present, Alf's father said he had spent a lot on him, yet Alf had not shown any ability. He said Alf should have been thankful for the 2 years he was allowed to stay after getting a useless skill. Alf's brother Velda agreed strongly with their father. He said Alf was a shame to the family. Alf could not say anything in return. Velda had received the skill called Holy Sword, which was strong in both attack and defense. He was also their father's favorite. After Velda got such a powerful skill, Alf was no longer seen as the next head of the house. Alf could not even match Velda, who had a skill. Alf then spoke up and asked if a person without a skill had no value. His father and brother laughed loudly. Velda pointed out how useless Alf was and said he alone could protect the family's honor. Their father told Alf to leave the house because he brought shame to the family of sword emperors. Because of this, Alf left the house. Before he went, the servants gathered around him. They said they could not go against the head of the family, but they were willing to give him some of their food. Alf felt touched and thanked them. The servants said Alf had always been kind to them and had helped them many times. They wished him to stay safe and said they were truly thankful for everything he had done, no matter their status. As Alf walked through the streets, he saw a flyer on a pole about quests for adventurers. Even without a skill, Alf kept training because he wanted to help people in need. He felt that this would not change whether he was a sword emperor or an adventurer. In fact, becoming an adventurer would let him help ordinary people more closely. However, in this area, many people knew who he was, so it might be hard for him to find work. Alf then continued walking toward the city gates and left the area. He decided to go to a village far from the royal capital. In a place where no one knew him, he wanted to become an adventurer and help people. Soon after, Alf found himself in the middle of a forest at night. It was dark and creepy and he worried that he might get lost. He lit a lantern and thought about resting. While looking for a place to camp, he found a carriage that had been taken over. Nearby, a girl was surrounded by men in robes who were dragging her away. Alf quickly hid behind a tree and covered his lantern. The girl struggled and told the men to let her go. She shouted loudly for help. Alf heard her clearly. The men told her to be quiet and threw her to the ground. They planned to break one of her legs to silence her. At that moment, Alf rushed in and attacked with his sword. One of the men quickly blocked his strike. The girl looked at Alf from under her hood. The men angrily asked who he was. Alf stood in front of the girl to protect her, and said it did not matter who he was since he was only passing by. The girl asked for his help and said she had been attacked without warning. The men all charged at once since Alf was alone. To Alf, their movements seemed slow and he could see them clearly. He thought this was the right time to show the results of his training, which he had kept up for 20 years without a single day off. Alf calmly stepped back to avoid a sword aimed at his face. He then closed his eyes and used his family's sword technique, the Lyfort-style 100-strike flash. In one fast move, he dashed forward and cut down 3 men at once. As the men fell to the ground, Alf asked the girl if she was safe. The girl was very impressed by what he did. She grabbed his hands and thanked him, calling him her savior. Alf felt flustered because she stood so close to him. The girl said she wanted to thank him properly and asked for his name. As Alf tried to tell her his name, someone suddenly shouted in anger and asked what they were doing. Before he could react, an attack hit him and sent him flying into a nearby tree. At the same time, the girl's mouth and hands were tightly bound by some kind of skill. Alf quickly realized that this new enemy was far stronger than anyone he had faced before. The man then apologized for his rough entrance and said they could not afford to make any more mistakes. He turned to the girl and said he had many questions for her, calling her Lamia Disowned. Hearing that name, Alf understood who the girl really was. He tried to ask if it was true, but the man attacked him again. The man then confirmed that the girl he held was the third princess of the Valmond kingdom. Alf tried to fight back, but the man easily overpowered him. A ball of light shot from the man's hand and struck Alf. The man mocked him for being weak and said it was almost funny. He told Alf to use a skill if he felt frustrated, but he also said that trying to defeat him was pointless. When Alf heard the word useless, it brought back memories. In the Lyford household, it was certain that each person would gain a powerful skill. Even so, Alf had never stopped training. His father had always had high expectations for him. Those born into the Lyford family carried the duty to protect the weak and lead the country to a better future. No matter how bad the situation became, Alf had never given up. Still, he could not believe that he had failed to become a sword emperor despite all his efforts. Even so, he remembered the times when people thanked him for saving them. That made him realize that his 20 years of hard work had not been wasted. At that moment, something unexpected happened. His cheat ability suddenly activated and confirmed that his combat experience had reached a new level. Alf was shocked. It was the first time his cheat ability had ever leveled up. He then understood that the battle had triggered it. His cheat ability continued and confirmed that he could now use all holy magic abilities. Alf was stunned as he saw his skills increase. Of all things, he had gained holy magic. He knew it was a rare type of magic even among master mages. The man asked why Alf had been looking away during the battle, then hit him again. Alf realized he had no choice but to act. He decided to use his skill and stab the ground with his sword. Nothing seemed to happen at first, and the man laughed at him for acting so confident. Alf said that a great mage had shown him a spell in the past and he still remembered it clearly. The man did not understand what he meant and tried to finish him off. Suddenly a bright light appeared. Swords began to fall from every direction. It was a skill called 99 Holy Sword Dance. The man was surprised that Alf had been hiding such a powerful skill. Even so, he believed it would not work on him. He swung his greatsword once and many of the blades were knocked away with ease. But Alf kept summoning more swords. The man was slowly pushed back and had no choice but to keep defending himself. Alf used more power and believed this was the moment the man's luck had run out. He admitted he had underestimated Alf. At last, one of the blades struck the man and knocked him out. Alf felt relieved that he had won. He quickly ran to the princess and gave her some medicine. He said it could cure poison and paralysis. After a moment, Lamia slowly opened her eyes, and Alf felt glad to see her awake. He also drank some of the medicine himself, just to be safe. Even then, he did not understand how he had been able to use holy magic. He wondered what had happened. It was not the kind of magic a person could gain in just one night. It was said that only famous mages who had mastered all other types of magic could use holy magic. Lamia stood up and thanked Alf again for saving her twice. She was amazed by his strength since he had defeated the man named Louis on his own. Confused, Alf asked who Louis was. Lamia explained that Louis was the large man he had just defeated. She also said that Louis had beaten the A-ranked adventurer who had been guarding her. Alf was shocked. A-ranked adventurers were known as some of the strongest among them. He found it hard to believe since just the day before he had been someone with no skills. Compared to well-known mages, his magic had also been weak. He began to wonder if the enemy had already been badly hurt before they fought. Lamia said she wanted to reward him for what he did. Then she realized she did not remember hearing his name, so she asked him again. Alf felt unsure. Telling his name could cause trouble. His goal was to become an adventurer in a place where no one knew him. If he got too involved with the princess, he would move away from that goal. He wanted to avoid that no matter what, so he tried to trick her by saying he had forgotten his name. Lamia became worried and asked if he had hit his head during the fight. Alf told her not to worry and said he could live even without a name. Lamia held onto him and said that would be a problem. She offered to find a skilled recovery mage and asked him to go to the royal capital with her. She also asked if he could walk while calling him Master A. Alf guessed she called him that because he had only said the letter A when he first introduced himself. Lamia added that she had seen his sword skills earlier, so she believed they could easily find out who he was. Alf began to wonder how he could escape from this situation. At that moment, some soldiers ran toward the princess. Lamia felt relieved when she saw them. Alf realized that if things continued like this, he would be taken to the royal capital. He did not want to trick the princess, but he felt he had no choice. He pointed at something in the distance and loudly asked what it was. Lamia quickly turned to look. Alf used that moment to run away. He did not expect the trick to work so easily, and for some reason he felt a bit of pain in his heart. Lamia noticed too late, and called out for him to wait because she still had things to say. Alf could only say goodbye in his mind as he kept running. Her voice echoed as she called after him. The soldiers looked around in shock. They could not believe that one man had defeated so many skilled fighters on his own. Lamia said that Alf was strong and brave. Since he had done something so impressive, she believed she could not ignore it as a member of royalty. She said she clearly remembered his sword technique and ordered the soldiers to search every school in the kingdom and find him no matter what. Meanwhile, Alf ran away with a guilty look on his face. A few days later, Alf finally arrived at a village called Marumia. He looked tired and messy, but he still went straight to the Adventurers Guild. Inside, many people were busy with their own work. Some looked just as worn out as he was, while others sat together and chatted happily over drinks. Alf walked up to the receptionist, Lulu, and told her he wanted to register as an adventurer. Lulu asked for his name. He paused for a moment, unsure, but then gave his name without including his family name. When Lulu heard it, she simply continued the process without reacting. Alf felt relieved. It seemed his bad reputation had not reached this far place. Even so, he still felt it was unfair to be treated badly just because he had a so-called useless skill. However, he understood that people placed a lot of trust in skills. Since skills showed a person's ability, there was not much he could do about it. After explaining the basics, Lulu said the next step was to test his combat strength. Alf had to fight an adventurer ranked C or higher in a mock battle. He flinched when he heard that it was the usual rule where beginners had to face stronger adventurers. Lulu asked if he was ready. Even though his hand shook as he held his sword, Alf said he was ready and would do his best. Soon after, he stood in the training area. He felt confused when he saw a maid standing in the middle of the field. Lulu giggled at his reaction. She said it was normal to be surprised, but then explained that the maid would be his opponent for the test. Since there were no C-ranked adventurers available, Lulu had asked an A-ranked adventurer to take their place. Alf was shocked by this. The maid then walked toward him and gently wiped the dirt from his cheeks. She asked if his name was Alf. After that, she introduced herself as Shirley Milleride. She said her hobby was pushing her enemies to their limits and making them awaken to the feeling of being controlled. Alf felt even more confused after hearing that. Lulu quickly stepped in and pulled Shirley away from him. She apologized and said that while Shirley might act strangely, her ability as an adventurer was truly strong. She warned Alf to stay careful. Alf nodded and said he understood. Shirley felt surprised when she saw Alf's stance. She thought he must have learned sword fighting somewhere. She began to wonder if the boy in front of her did not have a strong skill. She was sure that Alf's stance came from the Lyfort style. She then told Alf that she understood his situation, but she could not make the exam easy for him. She asked him to prove that he had enough strength to survive as an adventurer. Alf replied that this had been his goal from the beginning. Shirley quickly rushed forward and announced that the mock battle had started. She said she was attacking and told Alf to keep up with her. As Alf defended himself, he realized how fast Shirley was. He could also tell that she was holding back. Even so, he had already passed many exams at this level during his training. He understood that she was testing how he would deal with attacks from monsters. He knew he had to show that he could fight back and strike when he had the chance. As their blades clashed, Shirley let out a small laugh and said that Alf was impressive. She did not expect him to stay calm and block her attacks so well. She believed he had gone through very hard training. Alf thanked her for the praise and said he wanted to gain a stronger skill and complete his original goal. Shirley stepped back to create some space. She said she could tell that he had trained with all his strength. She told him there was no need to think negatively, and called him remarkable. She then spun her knives in her hands and continued her attack. She said that this part was separate from whether he would pass the exam or not. She added that she would increase her effort. This time she attacked not only with her knives but also with kicks. Alf could only defend himself. Shirley teased him and asked if he was okay. She reminded him that giving up was also part of being an adventurer. She told him to speak up if things became too hard for him. Alf knew his attacks looked clumsy, but he still tried his best because he was taking an exam. He said he was fine and told her they were only getting started. Shirley became confused when Alf suddenly shouted while swinging his sword. She quickly moved away and asked what was wrong with him. When she saw Alf smirk with confidence and release a bright light, she felt shocked. Alf then used his cheat ability along with his holy magic. He activated a skill called Moonlight Force. Shirley quickly ran away and showed how shocked she was. Alf tried to chase her, but Shirley asked to stop the exam right away. She ran toward him and asked if he had just used holy magic. Alf said yes, but he also said it felt too weak to be called holy magic. Shirley became upset and asked what he meant and how he could even use it. Alf explained that he did not really understand it himself, but he suddenly gained the ability a few days earlier. This surprised Shirley. She then nervously asked Lulu how many people in the kingdom could fight with a sword and use magic at the same time. Lulu checked a list and said that only a few people could do that, even among A-ranked adventurers. Shirley then asked how many swordsmen could use holy magic. Lulu said there were none. Shirley already expected that answer. She let out a sigh of relief and felt glad that she was not losing her mind. Shirley suddenly called Alf by his full name. She had already suspected that he was part of the Sword Emperor's family, the Lyfort family. She had also heard that he had gained a strange skill, along with many rumors about him. Alf confirmed his identity. He explained that he had been disowned by his family because of his skill, and that it had only happened a week before. Even so, Shirley found it hard to understand why he had been cast out when he could use such powerful magic. Alf then explained that he had only been able to use holy magic after that. Shirley took a moment to think. Even though she felt unsure at first, she suggested that if he showed his magic, he might be allowed to return to his family as a Sword Emperor candidate. When Alf heard this, he fell silent. He wondered if it was really a good idea to return to the royal capital with his skill. His cheat ability, which had been useless until recently, could now use holy magic, the strongest type of magic. He could go back to the Lifort family and become a Sword Emperor candidate again. However, he could not forget the harsh words his family had said to him. Shirley called out to him and Alf came back to his senses. She bowed her head and apologized for asking something so personal. She said that from watching the match, she could tell how hard he had worked. She could see that he had slowly built up his strength over time. She then took his hands, which made Alf feel embarrassed. She said she could not say much more after seeing him use holy magic. Swearing on her name, she officially recognized Alf's registration as an adventurer. Alf was left speechless. Lulu then expressed how happy she was, saying they had been short-staffed for a long time. She added that having someone strong join them was a big help. As the receptionist tried to continue with the next step, she suddenly noticed that Alf was crying. Alf stood still and stared at the hands Shirley had held earlier. Lulu asked if something was wrong. Alf apologized as he wiped away his tears and said it was nothing. He asked them to wait and said he would be back soon. Lulu could not stop him as he ran off. Alf remembered that ever since he received his skill, the fear inside him never went away, no matter how much he trained with his sword. Still, he did not want to hate himself, so he kept pushing forward. In the royal capital, people called him Alf the Dud Skill Owner. They saw him as useless, someone who could not fight even though he had the blood of the Sword Emperor. They called him a shame to the Lifort family and said he had no value. It felt like his whole life had been rejected, but at that moment he finally felt seen. All the hard work he had done until then had finally paid off. After a while, the girls found him. Lulu said she had already heard from Shirley that Alf was the son of the Sword Emperor. She said the name sounded familiar to her. She also said it made sense that he had not shared it. If a complete stranger suddenly came to register as an adventurer, it could cause trouble in a small village like theirs. Shirley then sat beside Alf and told him that his past would no longer matter once he became an adventurer. She shared that she also had a past she could not talk about, but she still worked hard and became an A-ranked adventurer. She believed that someone like Alf could also succeed. Lulu then said that Shirley was a special case. Shirley replied in a playful way that she did not know what Lulu meant. As Alf watched them, he could see how close they were. He wondered if people became closer more easily in a small village like that. The girls stood in front of Alf and welcomed him again as a new resident of Marimia village. Alf tried to thank them, but Lulu cut him off. She explained that the guild would give him a vacant house to rent and food for a week. Alf felt shocked. He tried to refuse, but Shirley told him to accept it. She understood how he felt, but she said the guildmaster liked to get involved in things. Lulu added that they would be scolded if they left Alf alone. Alf felt surprised when he heard that. Lulu said it was lucky that the guildmaster was not around at that time. She believed Alf would get the chance to talk to him later, so she encouraged him to do so. Alf felt overwhelmed. He thanked them for everything they had done for him. For the first time, he felt warmth from other people. That feeling showed him that they truly cared about him. It reminded him of the past. He knew he had come this far because of the food he once received from the servants. He realized that many people had helped him along the way. Because of that, he wanted to help others too. Lulu then invited him to return to the guild. She said there were still many things to take care of, including arranging his new home. Alf smiled and asked the girls to continue guiding him from that moment on. At the same time, in the kingdom of Valmond, Princess Lamia finally received the information she had gathered about the schools in the kingdom. She thanked her aide Karia. She believed that a skill as refined as Master A's could only come from one of the top schools. She remembered seeing his movements when she observed such moves somewhere before. As she looked through the pages, she found the section about the Lifort Sword Emperor family and their techniques. One of the techniques matched the sword skill Alf had shown in front of her. She felt relieved when she saw it. She knew she had recognized it correctly. Alf was a user of the Lifort style. Without wasting time, she decided to speak with the current head of the Lifort family right away. It did not take long for Alf's father, Phaos, to answer the princess's summons. He brought Velda with him. Princess Lamia thanked them for coming so quickly. Phaos said they felt honored that she gave them her time. Lamia quietly looked at Velda. She could tell he was not the same swordmaster she had met before. Based on the records she had seen, that person should have been a master of the Lifort style. Phaos then called for her attention. Lamia apologized for losing focus. She explained that she had a request for them about the Lifort style. Phaos became excited when he heard that the princess was interested in their school. He said it was an honor and told her she could ask anything. Lamia then asked if there was a technique that could release many attacks in a single moment, one that used fast and repeated thrusts with the tip of a blade. Phaos asked if she meant the 100-strike flash. Lamia asked them to show it to her. Phaos grew even more excited. He said Velda, who had the holy sword skill and was the next heir of the family, could perform it. Velda was surprised by this. His father leaned in and quietly told him that this was his chance to show his talent and possibly become the princess's guard. They all went outside, and Velda showed the 100-strike flash technique. Lamia felt pleased because it was the same technique she had seen before. Phaos asked what she thought. He admitted that Velda was still training but said he was gifted with the holy sword skill. He believed there was no one better to protect her. Lamia then asked if they were the only ones in the Lyfort family who could use that technique. Phaos said it was a skill passed down only in their family, and that he and his 2 sons had mastered it. Lamia felt confused and asked about the other son. Phaos and Velda suddenly became nervous. Phaos then began to explain what had happened. Lamia learned that Phaos had disowned his eldest son because of his useless skill. Phaos said their family was a proud house of the Sword Emperor and they could not accept such shame. Lamia asked him to describe the son he had cast out. Phaos felt confused and asked why she cared about that useless boy. Lamia gave him a cold look and told him to answer. Phaos and Velda lowered their heads. Phaos then described Alf. He said Alf was 20 years old, had black hair, amber eyes, and an average body. He also remembered that Alf carried a silver sword. Lamia felt shocked. It really was Alf. She remembered seeing him a week ago, looking lonely on the day he was sent away. Lamia then admitted that she had been searching for the person who saved her a week earlier. Now she was sure that Alf was that person, since his appearance and sword style matched perfectly. Phaos felt both shocked and confused. He said that Alf could only fight weak monsters and insisted that Velda was far more skilled. Lamia then brought up how Alf had defeated Louis Kristin. This surprised Phaos, since Louis was known as the Abyssal Bandit. Lamia explained that Alf had taken down a bandit that even A-ranked adventurers struggled to defeat, and he did it in an instant. Phaos looked at Velda. He realized that even his second son would not stand a chance against Louis, yet Alf had defeated him so easily. Seeing their reaction, Princess Lamia understood that they knew almost nothing about Alf. Phaos had no answer. Lamia thanked them for coming and told them to leave. Phaos tried to speak again and pushed Velda forward, saying that Velda would surely surpass Alf. Lamia showed a cold and fake smile. She made it clear that she had not called them there to choose a guard. Both father and son turned pale and quietly left the room. Lamia's aide called Phaos bold for trying to push the title of Sword Emperor. Lamia sighed and agreed, but she knew it could not be avoided because of their position. However, Alf was different. Even though he knew she was a princess, she could not help but smile and blush when she thought about him. Her aide then asked what was wrong. Lamia realized that the problem was still there. If the book she had was true, then their time was limited. At this rate, it would be faster if she looked for Alf herself. So she rode a carriage and set off on a journey. Meanwhile, Alf woke up one morning and found that his skills had increased again. This time, he gained a skill called aggro manipulation. The only thing he could think of was the mock battle from the other day. He had also unlocked holy magic after fighting the bandits. He believed his growing power came from his combat experience. Still, his head started to hurt. Someone with many skills like his had the talent to become a royal guard, but he thought that was only a dream. Suddenly, Shirley knocked on his door and asked if he was inside. Alf got up and opened it, only to see a basket full of food. Shirley greeted him with a bright smile and said she came to make him breakfast. She suggested that they eat together. Alf felt confused since he still had free groceries. Shirley told him not to be shy. She said it was clear from her outfit that she lived to serve. This only made Alf more confused. Then Shirley pushed him inside the house and told him to hide anything he did not want her to see. In the kitchen, Shirley hummed happily while showing her cooking skills. Alf was amazed at how fast and smoothly she worked. Then she brought out a special ingredient. It was a spice made from uramiso, which could be found deep inside Bluda Cave. Alf was surprised because uramiso was a rare and expensive ingredient that was not often sold in the market. He tried to tell her not to use something so costly on him, but Shirley had already added it to the dish. She laughed and said that living in the countryside meant people helped each other, so he should not think too much about it. Alf wondered if that was really true. Shirley finished cooking and served the food. She said she made it with all her heart. Alf thanked her with bright, excited eyes and quickly took a bite of the egg toast. His eyes lit up as he tasted it, and he said it was very delicious. Shirley felt a little shy when she saw how excited he was. She also ate some of the food. She used a spoon and ate in a calm and graceful way. Alf felt surprised by how elegant she looked. After they finished eating, Alf said it had been a long time since he had eaten a homemade meal that made him this happy. Shirley then thought it would be fine for her to come every morning. She said that Alf was exactly her type, a cute one. Alf felt confused and asked what she meant. Shirley explained that she was talking about the kind of man she would date. Alf said he understood and started to blush. He thought that Shirley just liked to tease people. As they sat down to drink coffee, Shirley remembered that Alf would soon start his adventurer work. Since he could use holy magic, she suggested that he start at B rank. She explained that this idea came from Lulu. She said that people usually started at E rank, but starting at B rank would let him take on harder tasks and earn better rewards. Alf thanked them for thinking about him, but he said he wanted to start from the bottom. He felt it was not good to depend on his holy magic right away, and he might stand out too much. He was also worried that the princess might find him. Shirley took a sip of her coffee and chose not to argue. She understood that he had his reasons. She decided not to tell others about his true strength for now. Alf said that would help him a lot. Still, Shirley felt a little lonely. Alf asked what she meant. She felt frustrated that the world did not understand how strong he really was. Alf laughed and said that hearing her say that was already enough for him. After that, the two continued to talk happily. Shirley suddenly became serious and said she had something important to tell him. She gave Alf a document that described people wearing black robes. Alf wondered what it was about. Shirley explained that it contained information about suspicious people seen around the village. She said they had not done anything yet, but similar reports had been coming from different parts of the country. She added that one of their main targets was Louis Christin, who was said to have been defeated by a master not long ago. Because of that, she believed things would stay safe for now. When Alf heard that name, he remembered the bandit he had defeated on his way to the village. Shirley noticed his reaction and asked what was wrong. Alf said it was nothing and commented that it sounded scary for such a peaceful place. Shirley agreed. She said that unlike the royal capital, their small village did not have strong military power. It would be hard for them to deal with something like this if it happened. She wished they knew what the group's goal was. Alf then realized he was the only one who knew that the people in black robes had tried to kidnap Princess Lamia. He hesitated for a moment but then admitted that he was the one who defeated Louis. This surprised Shirley. Alf explained that he had managed to win by using holy magic. He then told her what had happened. He described how a group of bandits had attacked Princess Lamia. Shirley was shocked to hear this. Alf said the princess would have been kidnapped if he had not shown up. Still, he believed he only won because Louis was caught off guard. If it had been someone else, things might have ended very differently. Shirley said she understood. She suggested that they should share the information with the guild. Alf asked her to go ahead, but she had another request. Shirley giggled and said she already knew what he was thinking. She promised to keep the source a secret. She also said she would go to the guild before him and told him to visit if he had time. Since the guild master was still away, she planned to teach him how to accept requests and handle other tasks. Alf tried to thank her, but Shirley made it clear in a playful tone that she would teach him everything step by step. Alf blushed and thanked her again. Later at the guild, Shirley asked if he had found a good request. Alf said he had already chosen one. It was a task to defeat 10 monsters called sheepmons which were ravaging the fields. Shirley said it sounded like a good choice. She explained that new members often pick difficult tasks too quickly, but she was not worried about Alf. Alf said that every request was about helping people anyway. Shirley then checked the location of the person who made the request. She said the place was about a 30-minute carriage ride from the village. Since Alf did not have money, he planned to walk. Shirley looked confused by what he said. Soon after, Alf found himself riding in a carriage. Shirley explained that the guild had special carriages that members could use for free while working on a request. Before he left, she told him that sheepmons were usually calm creatures, but she warned him to stay careful. She also told him to return safely. Alf promised that he would. Later, near the requester's land, groups of sheepmons appeared. Alf quickly defeated several of them with a single strike. After some time, he confirmed that he had defeated 10 sheepmons. The requester, Fame Luke, thanked him. She explained that the sheepmons had suddenly become violent, and having someone experienced handle them helped a lot. Alf said he was not an experienced fighter. After that, Alf looked toward a nearby forest that had felt strange the whole time. He asked Fame if her request was only to defeat 10 sheepmons, and if there were more nearby. Fame said she did not know because she had not been keeping track. However, Alf could sense that there were sheepmons in the forest. At the same time, he felt something darker hiding there. He believed that something in the forest had caused the usually calm sheepmons to become violent. Because of this, he decided to go into the forest and find out what was really happening. He confirmed that he could feel the presence of other monsters in the forest and offered to defeat them. Fame became worried because they did not have the freedom to make another request. Alf told her not to worry about the money since this was something he wanted to do. Fame felt relieved and thanked him. Alf went deeper into the forest and was shocked by what he found. He looked around in silence, unable to believe it. Many monsters had gathered in one place, packed closely together. On top of that, the monsters, which were usually calm, had red bloodshot eyes. He knew he had to calm the situation somehow. He used his family's sword technique, Dance of the Blinking Sword. In an instant, the monsters were knocked out. However, more monsters appeared, especially insect types. Alf wondered how many of them were out there, but he had no choice. He decided to face them and struck them down one by one. After everything had settled, Alf wondered if it was finally over. At that moment, he heard voices nearby. He thought that maybe there were no monsters in that direction. Deeper in the forest, 3 men wearing black robes stood near a girl who was tied up and blindfolded on the ground. The men complained that something was going out of control and could not be stopped. While hiding behind the bushes, Alf realized that they were the same people connected to Louis. He began to wonder why they were in the forest and why there were no monsters around them. One of the robed men asked another if he could control something by offering a human. He wanted to finish things quickly. A blonde-haired robed man chuckled and called the others impatient. He then took out an object that looked like a magic stone. He said they were lucky to see it again. Alf felt confused and surprised. He did not know what the object was. The robed man threw the stone into the sky and it gave off a dark and eerie aura. He then called for a monster named Berzolda to appear. Alf was shocked when a giant black monster suddenly appeared. The creature began to stomp around the forest. The robed men laughed, which caught the monster's attention. Alf stayed quiet and kept watching. The summoner told the monster to calm down and offered a woman as a sacrifice. He believed the monster liked women. The monster looked excited. The robed men used wind magic to lift the woman mid-ear into the air, and the monster caught her. The creature made excited sounds as it looked at her closely. The woman slowly woke up and began to scream. The summoner told the monster to eat her right away. He said the sacrifice would make the monster obey his commands without trouble. The monster licked the woman, as if it wanted to taste her before eating her. Alf wondered why they chose to sacrifice her. One of the robed men became excited and said that a woman's scream before death was the best. The summoner seemed pleased and agreed with him. The woman kept screaming in fear. She begged to be set free and cried out for help. Alf decided to move forward and attacked the robed men using 100-strike flash. Some of them survived and demanded to know who he was. They angrily told him not to interfere because they were in the middle of an important experiment. Alf grew angry and questioned if they were calling this an experiment. He pointed his sword at them and asked what they thought human life was. The monster stopped eating when it noticed him. Alf said he could not ignore what was happening. He opened the window of his cheat ability and saw a skill called hate manipulation. He wanted to try it, but he did not know what it could do yet. Even so, he had no other choice in that moment. He needed to save the woman in front of him. He used his holy magic and activated the skill Sun Searchlight. A bright light flashed and blinded the robed men. They were shocked and covered their eyes. Alf quickly took them down while they could not see. As they lay on the ground, they realized he was the same person who had defeated Louis after seeing his holy magic. The giant monster roared in pain as a stronger light blinded it. It released the woman and she screamed as she fell. Alf caught her in his arms and kept her safe. The girl thanked him. After setting her down, Alf faced the giant monster. He wondered what had happened to this person and what the robed men had been doing. He did not know all the details, but one thing was clear to him. The monster roared in anger and focused on Alf, who had taken away its meal. Alf knew he had made it angry. He had no choice now. He decided to take a risk and try his new skill. He activated hate manipulation on the giant monster. Nothing happened. This made Alf feel confused and worried. He checked again and saw that his new skill was not working at all. He found that hard to believe. The monster swung its claws at him and Alf tried to block with his sword. At that moment he realized he had received a useless skill. He could not believe this was happening during such a dangerous fight. Then lower-ranked monsters came out from the nearby woods and attacked the giant monster. This shocked and confused Alf. He did not understand what was going on. The giant monster screamed in pain as the smaller monsters attacked it from different sides. Alf saw this as his chance. He quickly used his holy magic skills, Moonlight Force and 99 Sacred Swords Dance. A rain of blades fell and pierced through the giant monster. The fight ended in an instant. Still, Alf could not understand why the smaller monsters attacked the giant to help him. He had not sensed them earlier. Soon the smaller monsters started to return to their normal behavior. Alf guessed that his new skill, hate manipulation, allowed him to control nearby monsters. For now, he felt relieved that the woman was safe. He decided to let her rest. However, the monsters suddenly rushed toward him. Alf wondered why they were now targeting him after defeating Berzolda. The woman was still behind him, so he had to act quickly. Then he realized something. He might be able to change the monster's target. He used hate manipulation on a nearby tree. The monsters quickly turned and attacked the tree instead. Alf then understood the true power of the skill. He could not control the monsters directly, but he could choose what they attacked. He realized how powerful this ability was. At that moment, his cheat ability informed him that he had unlocked more abilities after gaining enough experience points. A third skill appeared in his skill window. It was called Purgatory Sword. Alf believed he had leveled up after the fight. Still, the name sounded strange to him. He also thought he could not use the skill with his current sword. He then looked at the body of the giant monster and realized he could use it. He began to cut it apart. He saw that its materials could be useful for many things, so he decided to collect them. The sheepmen's also had materials that felt warm and could be used for clothing, so he gathered those as well. Then Alf understood why the normally calm monsters had turned wild. He believed the black-robed people had caused it. The monsters must have sensed danger and fled from the forest, which led them to attack the nearby fields. Now that everything was over, Alf believed that Fame's fields would finally be safe again. Before he could leave with his spoils, Alf suddenly heard voices nearby. The sound came from people who seemed to be searching for something. Alf quickly hid and started to wonder if they were allies of the black-robed group. The monster he had fought earlier was already very strong, so it would not have been strange if more of them were around. He could not leave the unconscious girl behind. A group of people soon arrived at the scene and were shocked to see that the giant monster had already been defeated. They noticed Alf sitting beside the unconscious girl and asked who he was. Alf then realized that they were not part of the black-robed group. A swordsman stepped forward and pointed his sword at Alf. He introduced himself as Muller, an S-ranked adventurer. He explained that a giant monster had been rampaging in the area and that he had come to defeat it. He then asked why Alf was there. Alf realized that they were also adventurers. He understood that lying in this situation would only make things more difficult. He also introduced himself as an adventurer. He explained that 4 robed men had been using the monster to attack the girl, so he stepped in to save her. One of the adventurers checked the giant monster's corpse and said that it explained why the strong killing intent had suddenly disappeared. Alf continued and said that he did not know the full details of why the black-robed men were doing this. Muller found it hard to believe that a single person had taken down such a huge monster that could even be seen from the edge of the forest. Another adventurer called out Muller's attention and reported that the robed men in the area were only part of a surveillance group. He said that the same people had been seen acting suspiciously around the kingdom before. Muller then realized that the men lying on the ground looked familiar to him. His teammates said he would detain them for now and question them later about the monster. This made Muller realize that the monster and the black-robed men were connected in some way. However, he noticed something else that felt strange. His teammate asked what was wrong. Muller remembered that this forest was home to gentle herbivorous monsters. He wondered where they had gone. The others assumed that the monsters had been scared away by the giant creature and had fled. Muller said he had thought the same. However, no monsters had returned even after the giant monster was defeated. Another teammate then went to check the nearby woods. She suddenly broke into a cold sweat and said she might have found the answer. Alf tried to stop her, but it was too late. They then discovered the herbivorous monsters attacking a single target. Muller felt confused seeing these normally gentle creatures attacking all at once. Alf then apologized and said it might have been his fault. He explained that he had temporarily changed the monster's target to a tree so they would not harm the girl. He said he would cancel it now. Muller then assumed Alf was a magic user. Alf denied it and said he could use both swordsmanship and magic. Muller was shocked and assumed Alf was at least A-ranked. Alf said he was only E-ranked, which shocked Muller even more. Alf then asked them worriedly to keep the situation a secret because he did not want attention. Muller could not believe that someone who could use both sword and magic control monsters and defeat a giant creature alone did not want recognition. He saw Alf as someone who simply acted to save people. Muller found Alf's determination impressive. For some reason, his teammates became worried. Muller then told Alf to leave the aftermath to them and go. His teammates tried to refuse because they still needed to question Alf. Muller told them to be quiet and said that knowing everything about Alf was not justice. Alf thanked him. Muller formally introduced himself and showed respect toward Alf as a fellow adventurer. Alf felt misunderstood but used the chance to leave. The others tried to stop him, but Muller blocked their path. He told them not to treat someone so noble in a rude way. He also reminded them not to become careless just because they were now S-ranked. He urged them to become true adventurers like Alf. The others could only watch as their leader became fired up again. Alf soon returned to Marumia village. He complained about how long the walk had been. The carriages were free only for quick response requests, but after that the cost came from his own pocket. Since he had no money, he had no choice but to walk back. He had already reported the additional sheepmon subjugation to Fame. Now he only needed to submit the completion form at the counter to finish the job. When he entered the guild, he overheard other adventurers talking about a dangerous monster that had appeared in a nearby forest. Alf could tell that things were starting to get chaotic. Lulu quickly called out to him in worry and told him that an unknown monster had appeared near Fame's house. Alf asked what she meant. Lulu explained that the monster looked like a huge shadow and was bigger than any building. She was relieved that he had returned safely. Alf realized she was talking about the monster he had already defeated. He then handed her the completion form. Lulu was surprised that he had finished the request so quickly. She also noticed that he had exceeded the required number, but Fame had already approved it. She then confirmed the request as completed. She leaned closer to Alf and quietly asked if he was the one who defeated the monster. Alf tried to pretend he did not know anything, but it was clear on his face that he was hiding the truth. Lulu understood that he did not want attention, so she did not press further. She called him impressive, since most people would have tried hard to become famous for something like that. Alf simply smiled and said that everyone lived their life differently. He then placed his spoils on the reception desk and said they were monster materials. Lulu guessed they were from the monster she was thinking about. She explained that he could exchange the materials for money, or have a skilled craftsman use them to create equipment. Alf then asked her to introduce him to a skilled blacksmith. He wanted to forge a stronger sword, one that could protect more people. Who could this blacksmith be? Back in the royal capital, Alf's father had the worst headache of his life. He could not believe that the princess did not even look at them. Her calm voice stayed in his mind as she said she was not looking for guards. He said he had only followed the teachings of the sun god religion that had been passed down in the royal capital. According to its teachings, everyone received a skill on their 18th birthday. Those who received strong skills were said to be loved by God. On the other hand, those who received weak or useless skills were seen as cursed and no longer protected by God. People believed that being close to such cursed individuals would cause them to lose the favor of the gods. Because of this, they were taught to cut ties with anyone who had a useless skill. Phaos remembered that Alf once had doubts about these beliefs. Because of that, he thought Alf had been punished by the gods. But he never expected Alf to defeat Lewis, even with a useless skill. Now he felt he had no choice but to make Velda prove that he was better than Alf. He could not allow the Sword Emperor family to fall during his time. Phaos went to Velda's room and found him shouting at the servants. Velda complained that they had not cleaned his room while he was away. The servants apologized and explained that it was hard to clean everything in such a short time. Velda became even angrier. He asked if they were saying his room was very dirty and then started kicking them to the floor. Phaos was left speechless. He remembered that when Velda gained a powerful skill, he became selfish and stopped training. In this world, people believed that skills decided a person's worth, and those with strong skills were seen as great, but when it came to sword skills alone, Alf was far better than Velda. Phaos still felt disappointed that Alf did not have a strong skill to match his talent. In the end, he decided that he needed to train Velda again and be much stricter with him. A while back, Phaos trained his sons. During one session, Velda gave up too early. He complained that his arms were tired and ran away. He said that resting was also an important part of training. Phaos sighed and thought Velda was difficult to handle. He then turned to Alf and asked if he would quit as well. Alf said he could keep going. He took a stance with his sword and asked his father to teach him more techniques. Seeing this, Phaos felt excited. He expected this from the eldest son of the Sword Emperor family. Phaos became serious and continued sparring with Alf. After the training, Phaos stood in front of Alf and reminded him of their family's teachings that had been passed down for generations. These teachings were about protecting the people and the country, and never giving up even in hard situations. He told Alf to keep these words in his heart so he could gain a strong skill. He believed it was Alf's destiny to lead the Sword Emperor family to a better future. Alf stood up and promised to become stronger. He wanted to grow without relying on skills and become a Sword Emperor who would surpass his father. At that time, Phaos felt proud of Alf. However, he later felt disappointed when Alf received a useless skill. After that, he told Velda it was time to train and improve his skill. Velda laughed and said there was no need to worry. He believed he could defeat enemies with a single swing, even without training. Phaos tried to insist on training, but Velda threatened to leave the house. He said he would be fine on his own because of his skill. Phaos could not argue back. Velda was now the only son left to inherit the family. Phaos remembered that Velda had never liked training. After Alf was cast out, Velda became even lazier. He began to treat the servants badly, using violence and harsh words. He reached a point where he could hardly be called the heir of the Sword Emperor family. With his behavior, Alf seemed more fit to become the Sword Emperor. Phaos began to wonder if disowning Alf had been a mistake. However, Alf was said to be cursed and had lost divine protection. Because of that, Phaos believed sending him away had been the right choice. Velda continued to kick the servants and told them not to make excuses in front of him, the future Sword Emperor. The servants begged for mercy. In the end, Phaos stepped in to stop his son. He started to question if it was right for the proud history of the Sword Emperor family to continue like this. Meanwhile, in the forest, Princess Lamia learned that a huge and unknown monster had appeared nearby. A knight reported that an S-ranked adventurer named Muller had already defeated it near Marumia village. Lamia thanked him for the report. After the knight left, Lamia took a deep breath and turned to her aide, Korea. She became excited and believed that Alf was the one who defeated the monster. However, Korea felt it was strange that Alf had left without saying anything after doing something so impressive. Lamia said that the behavior sounded just like him. She felt happy because she finally had a clue about where he was. Korea then concluded that Alf had likely moved to Marumia village. Lamia wanted to leave right away, but Korea said she admired her energy and suggested that they rest first. She explained that there were other things that worried her. Lamia suddenly looked concerned and asked if she meant the giant monster. She remembered that the report described it as having a shadow-like form and a massive body, something she had only read about in ancient texts. If the monster was truly called Berzolda, then the contents of the book she carried, the poem of Astoria Continent, were starting to become real. The poem of Astoria Continent was an ancient book that had been kept in a place only royalty could enter. It contained information that made Lamia doubt what she was seeing. 1500 years ago, a rainstorm had caused 1,000 deaths. Then 800 years ago, a huge earthquake destroyed half of the royal capital. The book had been written 2,000 years ago, yet it recorded events that later became part of history. Because of this, Lamia believed it might have been a book of prophecy. What worried her even more was what came next. It said that the great deeds of the goddess Frey would be passed down through future generations. The blessings of God would bring prosperity to the world. Those who did not receive these blessings were considered abandoned by God. However, the one called the hero, who was meant to save the chaotic world, was not someone who had received blessings. Instead, it was someone who had been abandoned by God. The place where this hero would first show his power was on the outskirts of a place where many people lived. People would feel fear, respect, awe, and even hatred toward a power greater than that of God. But the hero's power would be useless in the end. The world would be turned into a sea of death by the true evil God. Some parts of the text were blurred, and the last page could no longer be read. Even so, the uneasy feeling Lamia had when she picked up the book was real. She finally understood why it had been kept in a place only royalty could enter and why it had been strictly guarded for generations. Korea then asked if the king still did not believe what was written in the book. Lamia confirmed that her father refused to believe it since he could not accept that the goddess Freya would be the one to destroy the world. After all, it was goddess Freya who had given everyone their skills. The sun goddess Freya was one of the 3 most respected gods at that time. She stood as one of the pillars along with the god of wisdom and the god of healing. People in the royal capital worshipped her deeply. It was said that the stronger a person's faith in her, the stronger the skill they would receive. The Sword Emperor family was one of those who believed in her the most. Korea believed that this strong faith was the reason why Phaeos had cast out his own son. He likely felt no guilt at all, thinking it was simply the natural fate of someone who had been abandoned by God. Lamia agreed and explained that their time was ruled by skill supremacy. If a person received a strong skill, their future was already secure. It did not matter if they spent their early years doing nothing. As long as they gained a powerful skill, they could become the strongest. Before, there had been no clear ranking based on the strength of skills. People could still live active lives as long as they found the right way to use what they had. But if discrimination based on skills kept growing, it would lead to conflict. In time, the world would be filled with death. It was during this kind of time that Alf had appeared. The blessing mentioned in the poem likely referred to skills. The one abandoned by God referred to someone with a useless skill. Alf was one of those people. The poem also spoke of the moment when a hero would first show his power on the outskirts of a town. Alf could use both the sword and magic, yet he had looked shaken when his skill activated. She believed it was the first time it had ever happened to him. Because of this, people would fear a power that even surpassed that of the gods. If Alf was truly the hero, and all these events matched the prophecy, Lamia could not see him as just a coincidence. The next part of the prophecy spoke of the world turning into a sea of death. Lamia swore that she would change that future. The princess told Karya that she had rested enough. Karya said she understood. She had already promised to go with the princess wherever she wanted to go. Because of that, they set off for Marumia village to find and meet Alf. Lamia also remembered reading a part of the poem about the fate of the princess who started a rebellion. She felt that she had to see everything with her own eyes. She wanted to understand her own destiny. At the same time in Marumia village, Alf finally got a new sword. The blacksmith called it the Absolute Shadow Sword. He said he had added the monster materials that Alf brought to make the sword. He explained that the special effects changed depending on the monster used. He also talked about how rare and special those materials were. The blade gave off a deep black glow that would blind everyone except the person holding it. It also made it harder for enemies to see him. Alf remembered how Berzolda was always covered in a dark mist. He realized that the effects really depended on the materials used. The blacksmith agreed and said the effect would become weaker once enemies got used to it. Alf thanked him for the sword. The blacksmith said it was fine since he had not made a weapon this good in a long time. He also said that Alf's eyes had not changed over the years and that he remembered him. Alf asked if the blacksmith still remembered him. The blacksmith said it had been 15 years, so it would not have been strange if Alf had forgotten him. Even so, Alf clearly recognized him and felt honored that Beidorou still remembered him. Beidorou then talked about his past. He said he had worked hard for the world and its people. He believed that by making good swords he could help humanity grow and improve. But as time went on, he started to notice something strange. People slowly began to treat skills as the most important thing. At the same time, swordsmanship became less valued. Many people believed that if someone had skills, they did not need to learn the basics anymore. In the end, swords were no longer used for battle or protection. They became simple decorations that people used to show their status. Alf felt sorry for the blacksmith. He could not help but question this way of thinking, where skills were seen as everything. In the past, people carried swords to protect what mattered to them, not to show off their rank or gain honor. The blacksmith then took Alf's hand. He understood how Alf used his sword and saw that he handled it with care. He believed Alf was not the type of person who would misuse power if he ever gained it. To him, Alf's hands showed that clearly. Alf felt embarrassed and said he was not that great. He believed that everything he had achieved was because of the people around him. The blacksmith accepted this and said that it was already enough. He told Alf that life was still long and that he would meet many people along the way. He reminded Alf to be thankful for every person he met. Hearing this made Alf think. Before he was disowned, he lived as the heir to the Sword Emperor. At that time, he only thought about protecting many people. Later, he realized he did not need to become someone that important. It was enough for him to protect the people close to him. The people who helped Alf understand all of this were the servants he had spent time with. Princess Lamia had given him hope, and Shirley had given him the opportunity to be recognized as an adventurer. Because of all these experiences and meetings, he now held a new sword in his hands. Alf told Beidorou that meeting him again like this had become one of the treasures in his life. The blacksmith felt flustered because he was not used to such sincere words. He told Alf that he was welcome to visit anytime, and Alf thanked him. Alf tried to ask about the materials used to make the sword, but the blacksmith assured him that he would not share that information with anyone in the village. Alf felt relieved and thanked him again for making such a well-made sword. This moment made Alf realize that the people in the village were truly kind. Because of this, he felt a strong desire to protect the lives in the village. When Alf returned to the guild, he overheard people excitedly talking about the person who had defeated the giant black monster the other day. They also talked about how that person had controlled the monsters in the area and made them focus their attacks on a single tree. They doubted it was a tamer because they believed it was impossible. Alf quietly spoke to Lulu about how the incident was becoming a big topic. Lulu said that only a few people knew the full truth, so the rumors were spreading quickly and getting out of control. Just then, a kid went to the reception desk and searched for the person who defeated the monster the other day. He said he wanted an autograph. Seeing how pure and innocent the kid was, Alf felt guilty for hiding his identity. Lulu apologized and said they could not share personal information. The kid felt disappointed, but he asked Lulu to pass a message to that person. He promised that when he grew up he would become an adventurer too and help save many people someday. Lulu said she would happily pass the message along. Alf then asked the kid why he wanted to become an adventurer. The kid answered that saving people was cool. He said he could not defeat monsters yet, but he was doing his best by carrying buckets for chores and doing push-ups. Alf praised the kid and patted his head. He thought the kid truly admired strong people and was growing up in a way that would shape his future. He told the kid that he would surely become a brave and kind adventurer someday. Soon after, Shirley called out to Alf from the second floor and asked if he had a moment. Alf asked what it was. Shirley said she had something to talk about and invited him to the back. Alf wondered what it was. Shirley then leaned closer and whispered that it was a secret. When they were left alone, Shirley asked if Alf was the one who defeated the Belzolda. Alf stayed silent, but he already knew she must have heard about it. He tried to act like he did not know anything, but Shirley could clearly tell he was hiding the truth. She said she knew he had accepted Fame's request, and that there were strong people outside who could defeat the monster. She believed he was the only one capable of taking it down. Alf said her words were an exaggeration. Shirley told him to stop pretending and promised she would not leak his information. Alf then asked why she had called him there in private. Shirley then handed him a document and said she was sharing information with him. Officially, Alf was listed as an E-ranked adventurer, but she felt he needed to know about it anyway. Alf asked what the paper was about. It had the words Sun God Sect written on it. Shirley explained that the report said the black-robed people Alf had fought earlier were actually members of the Sun God Sect. It was also likely that Lewis was one of them. Alf was shocked and asked why that was the case. Shirley said there was only one possible reason. Alf pointed out that the Sun God Sect was almost like a state religion. Shirley agreed, explaining that in Valmond, people believed they were the ones who granted skills. It was not an exaggeration to say the entire country worshipped them. The object of worship was the sun god Freya, who was believed to have created the world together with the god of wisdom and the god of healing. The Sun God Sect was a group of missionaries who spread these teachings. Skills were seen as very valuable in the kingdom, but outside the country things were different. Alf then wondered why the black-robed missionaries he met felt so different if that was true. More importantly, he questioned why they would attack Princess Lamia if they were really from the Sun God Sect. Shirley said they did not know much yet. They only knew those people were connected to the Sun God Sect. Alf found it hard to believe. Since Alf had been brave enough to share information about the attack on the princess, Shirley decided to tell him more. She admitted it was too much for her to handle alone, so she chose to rely on allies. She could not ignore the situation, and she asked Alf if he would fight alongside her. Alf thought for a while. Shirley was truly an amazing person. She worked for the kingdom, the village, and her companions with a clear sense of what needed to be done. In the end, Alf decided to help her. He was not sure how much he could contribute, but he still asked to join her. Shirley was happy with his answer, even though she already expected it. She then shared another letter that had just arrived. It was from Fame, thanking Alf for his help and for going beyond what was asked in the job. Shirley said Fame was deeply moved by Alf's kindness and wanted to express her thanks through a letter. She also said it was rare for a newcomer to receive a letter after finishing a request. She added that it was even more special because Alf had done more than what he was required to do even without being asked or paid extra. Alf said it had simply happened that way. Shirley called him amazing for being able to work for the sake of others. Alf said she was exaggerating and explained that he only did what he could. Still, he felt glad that he had kept working hard all this time. As long as there were things he needed to protect with his sword, he knew he could keep believing in himself. Shirley then quietly said that his eyes seemed to shine more than when they first met. Alf asked her what she had said, but she replied that it was nothing. Since he had agreed to work with her, she told him there was one request she wanted him to take part in. She said it would be their first mission together. Alf agreed with enthusiasm. Alf soon found himself being taken by Shirley to a wide grassland. They rode in a carriage for about an hour, but all he could see around him was endless grass. Shirley told him that this was the place where the people of the Sun God Sect would appear. Alf felt surprised when he heard that. Shirley reminded him of what she had told him before. She had explained that these people had been moving all across the kingdom. Alf remembered her description of them. They wore black robes and acted in strange and suspicious ways. He started to wonder what a group from a state religion could be planning. Shirley then called his attention and told him to look nearby. There was a strange sword stuck in the ground. It was a short sword small enough to stay hidden in the tall grass. Alf had not noticed it until Shirley pointed it out. He thought it might have some kind of power. He asked if the Sun God sect had placed it there. Shirley explained that it was actually the opposite. She had already confirmed that similar swords were stuck in the ground all over the kingdom. It seemed that the sect had been pulling them out instead. The sword gave off a strange feeling. At first it had no presence at all. But the moment Alf noticed it, it felt like a dark and heavy aura began to come out of it. Shirley also shared that another adventurer had reported the same thing. That adventurer had been tracking the Sun God sect and had found a similar sword by chance. Even so, the guild had no information about these swords. Thinking about it, Alf realized how suspicious the situation was. Because of this, Shirley wanted to keep watch in the area and she asked Alf to help her. She knew that if too many of them appeared, she might not be able to handle it alone. Alf agreed to help, and Shirley thanked him. She then looked around and chose a place where they could hide. They stayed hidden in the bushes. Shirley leaned close to Alf while they waited. She teased him and he felt embarrassed by how close they were. He tried to stay focused, but he could not ignore how uncomfortable the position felt. Even so, Shirley stayed alert the whole time. She kept watching their surroundings carefully. Alf expected nothing less from an A-ranked adventurer. Shirley noticed that the monsters simply passed by them. Alf had forgotten to mention it earlier and said it was because of his new sword. Shirley was surprised to learn that the sword made it harder for enemies to notice the person using it. She thought the effect was amazing, but she had never heard of anything like it before. Alf agreed and said he felt the same way. He had not expected to use it for a stealth mission like this. He knew that doing a stakeout like this could be difficult because of the monsters. They had to avoid being seen by the people they were watching, and at the same time stay aware of the monsters moving around them. Shirley was still holding on to Alf and sounded impressed. She had not realized he had gained this kind of power and had become even stronger. Alf hid his smile and said he still had a long way to go. After some time, they noticed someone approaching. They held their breath as a carriage stopped nearby. Two men in black robes stepped out and stood in front of the strange-looking sword. One of them asked if they had reached the last location. The other said that another team was handling a different place, and this would be the final part of their mission. Alf and Shirley became alert. One of the men said it was time to fulfill their long-awaited wish. Alf wondered what that wish was, but he felt more worried about the other location they mentioned. He tried to tell Shirley about it, but she stopped him. She assured him that another group was already watching that place. She said that if it became necessary to stop the men in black robes, that group would take action. For now, she believed it was better to wait and gather more information about their hideout or plans. Alf understood and decided to keep watching quietly. Just then, the carriage started to shake. The robed men outside complained and told the others to quiet down. Another robed man stepped out of the carriage and apologized. He said he had only thought about having some fun with the girl before they offered her as a sacrifice. The others told him he could do what he wanted, but warned him that if the Pope found out, they would all be in trouble. Alf watched as the men dragged the sacrifice out of the carriage. He and Shirley both turned pale. The person they pulled out was the third princess, Lamia. Once again, she was in danger. Lamia could not believe what was happening. It had happened to her not just once, but twice. This could not simply be called bad luck. Only the royal family should have known about her expedition. She already had her suspicions and now they felt confirmed. Someone within the royal family had been leaking information about her movements. Even Korea, who was said to be as strong as Louis, was easily overpowered by the mysterious group of men in black robes. In the poem of the Estria continent, it was written what happened to a princess who rebelled. The king's daughter questioned the way the nation was run. She tried to fight back but failed. In the end, she died after suffering greatly. The black-robed men laughed quietly and reminded each other that they were deep in the forest, far from anyone who could hear them. They said chances like this did not come often, especially when it involved a princess. Lamia wondered if it was truly impossible to change the prophecy written in the poem. She questioned if everything she had done so far meant nothing against fate. With a shaking voice, she asked for help. In an instant, Alf appeared between her and the men in black robes. With a single slash, he sent them flying away. Lamia was stunned. Her fate should have already been sealed, but now she was seeing the first moment when the prophecy was broken. Alf told her that he had come to save her. Just as she thought, it was really him. He asked her to stay behind him while he handled everything. Lamia thanked him. Alf angrily shouted at the men in black robes. He declared that they would face the consequences for harming the princess. The men were surprised by the strong pressure coming from him. One of them finally recognized him. They remembered who he was and the useless skill he had. They could not believe they had been scared of someone they saw as trash, a person abandoned by the gods. Alf looked back and saw Shirley fighting 3 enemies at once. Since the men were underestimating him, he decided to use that to his advantage. He knew he had a skill related to swords, so he chose to use it. He activated the Purgatory Sword. His cheat ability confirmed that the power of the Creator God, the God of Infinity, had returned for a short time. This shocked Alf, but he had no time to think as a sudden wave of power rushed into his body. His skill warned him that the sword was fueled by the anger of being cast down by the 3 gods and told him to be careful. Alf had never heard of the god of infinity before. He wondered what it meant. His head began to feel like it was burning. He screamed as loud as he could, and when he stopped he felt even more power rising inside him. The pain returned and he screamed again as he held his head. The black-robed men felt confused and thought Alf was using the power of an evil god. Alf moved so fast that it looked like he had teleported. He cut their swords in half as if they were soft like butter. Alf did not understand what was happening. He felt anger growing inside him. The black-robed men began to call him foolish and accused him of selling his soul to an evil god. Alf questioned them, not understanding their claims. He said that kidnapping and harming the princess in a hidden place was not something a true follower of the goddess would ever do. He pointed out that their actions made them seem more like servants of evil. Hearing this made the black-robed men angry. One of them decided to show the sacred power given to him by goddess Frey. He wanted to defeat Alf and prove the strength of the sun god sect. Suddenly, the ground under Alf began to crack with a loud sound. Alf wondered what was happening. The black-robed man laughed and said that because of the blessing he received from the goddess, he could gain a sudden and powerful boost in strength. He said this was something impossible for someone cursed like Alf. Rocks began to rise and float in the air. Alf prepared himself for the fight as they called him Alf Leafort, the one with the dud skill. He wondered who was stronger, himself as someone blessed by the goddess, or a cursed person like Alf. Alf then called the robed man an annoying fly. He told him to stop buzzing around and attack already. He questioned if that was the only ultimate power he got from the goddess and said it was exactly what he expected. This angered the robed man, so he went on the attack. He sent floating rocks flying toward Alf. Alf stayed calm, stood his ground, cut through the rocks and rushed forward. He tried to strike the robed man, but the man quickly moved back. Then the robed man placed his hand on the ground and caused it to crack. He called Alf a foolish man. Alf moved back to avoid the attack. He said he did not care if it was called divine protection or justice because it was never right to hurt others. Then he attacked again. The robed man called him naive and created a wall of rock between them, blocking Alf's strike. Even so, Alf did not give up and swore that he would stop their plans. As Alf got closer, the robed man finally realized who he was. He understood that Alf was the one who defeated Louis. He stepped back and laughed, saying he was lucky. He felt glad that he had the chance to take revenge for his comrade. He warned Alf that he would finish the fight with his next attack and said he would take his life. Rocks then rose into the air and surrounded Alf from every side. The robed man closed his fist and all the rocks rushed toward Alf at once. He said Alf would disappear without a trace. Thinking the fight was over, the man laughed and said he had come this far because of the guidance of goddess Frey. He believed he would achieve their goal and avenge his comrades. He pulled a sword from the ground and smirked. He then looked at the unconscious Lamia and said there were no more obstacles. In a mocking way, he said he felt sorry for the princess. At that moment, Lamia woke up and saw a blade in front of her. It came from Alf, who stood there protecting her from the robed man. Alf pointed out that the man's attacks looked flashy, but they left him wide open. He called him a fool for lowering his guard. The robed man got ready to launch another magic attack. Alf took a stance and rushed forward. He used his family's sword skill, Dance of Instant Blade. With a single slash, the fight ended. Alf tried to catch his breath as he checked on the unconscious robed man. After that, he went to the pale princess and asked if she was all right. Lamia was more concerned about Alf's injuries. Alf said he was fine, but his head started to sting again. Lamia held him in her arms and told him to rest for a while. Alf apologized and admitted he might have used a reckless ability. The Purgatory Sword greatly boosted a swordsman's power, just as its name suggested. However, it came with a cost. Alf had just learned that it put a heavy strain on the body. Even so, he still wondered what the god of infinity really was. Princess Lamia apologized for causing him trouble again. Alf told her it was fine. Even though he had been cast out from his family, he still lived as someone from the Leifort family and helped others. Lamia blushed when she heard his honest words. Then Shirley appeared and said she was glad everything was settled on Alf's side. Alf was impressed to see that she had captured the robed men, though he expected no less from her. Shirley said she struggled a little but still managed to win. Even so, her maid outfit did not look dirty at all. Princess Lamia then asked about the condition of the robed men. Shirley assured her that she only knocked them unconscious because they needed to get information from them later. She also noticed that Alf had done the same to his opponents. She said she expected that from someone she trusted. Alf said he barely managed and thanked her for her kind words. Lamia then called for their attention and thanked them for saving her. However, she said she had something important to talk about. She believed she knew what the bandits were planning. Later in Marumia Village's guild building, Lamia thanked Alf and Shirley again. Korea lowered her head and apologized for making them take over her duty to protect the princess. Shirley said it was fine and she was just glad the elixir had worked on them. When Korea thought about how expensive the medicine was, her face turned pale. She said she was very grateful for everything. Alf said it was fine since they had faced 7 enemies. He also pointed out how those people suddenly gave off a red aura and became stronger. Princess Lamia said that was exactly what she wanted to talk about. She explained that the bandits blindly worshipped the goddess Freya, and their strength likely came from divine protection. Alf said the guild's investigation only showed that those people were from the sun god sect, but it did not mention anything about gaining strength from divine protection. Lamia was surprised that they already knew who the attackers were. Shirley confirmed that a captured member of the sun god sect had given information in a past case. Lamia felt relieved, knowing it would be easier to explain things. She took a book from Karya and asked them to read it. As they read, Lamia explained that the book had been passed down in the royal family for 2,000 years. She believed it was a prophecy. Shirley saw that it recorded many past disasters, and she felt it was too detailed to be a coincidence. What stood out the most to her was that much of the book seemed to be about Alf. Alf looked confused. Shirley pointed out that he was described as one abandoned by the gods, yet he had great power that awakened near the outskirts of the capital. Lamia said this was the reason she wanted to talk to him. She believed that the hero written in the poem was Alf. Alf was shocked and tried to deny it, saying it could not just be a coincidence. Lamia understood that it was hard to believe so quickly. Still, she thought that if Alf really was the hero, then someone had been trying to interfere with him many times. She said that the end of the poem described something truly frightening. She explained that she had tried many times to contact the hero to stop the prophecy, but each time she was stopped by bandits. For this expedition, she had only told her father, yet she was still attacked in a very precise way. Alf was shocked and asked if she was suggesting that the king and the sun god sect had worked together to attack her. Lamia said she did not want to believe it, but she thought there was a high chance it was true. Suddenly, Shirley asked the princess if she could ask something. She explained that the members of the sun god sect were spread all over the world and were pulling swords out of the ground. She asked if the princess knew anything about it. Lamia was surprised. She felt like she had heard about those swords before. She quickly flipped through the pages of a book and read out loud. Long ago, Freya wanted to destroy the world, but the god of infinity sealed her away using many swords. Alf was shocked and asked what that meant. Shirley guessed that it was done using the last of their strength. Lamia agreed and added that the way to break the seal was said to be the other half of the hero, along with someone who had received Freya's favor. Shirley started to wonder who that could be. She thought about whether someone close to Alf had received a very strong skill from Freya. Alf could only think of one person back home. The girls looked at him. He knew who it was, but he looked hesitant to say the name.